This is why does the past always haunt the narcissist? Why is it that narcissists can't seem to escape their past? No matter how many people they manipulate, how many relationships they destroy, or how many times they reinvent themselves, the shadow of their past always seems to follow them. It's as if no matter how much they try to move forward, they're constantly pulled back into the mistakes, regrets, and emotional scars they've inflicted on others. But what is it about narcissists that makes the past such a heavy burden for them? Why do they find themselves haunted by their past actions and experiences, even when they outwardly deny them? In today's video, we'll dive deep into this question and uncover the reasons why the past always seems to haunt the narcissist. We'll explore how their need for control, their lack of self-awareness, and their deep-seated insecurities cause them to carry the weight of their past actions everywhere they go. We'll also look at how this emotional baggage affects their present relationships, their ability to form meaningful connections, and their overall sense of self-worth. You won't want to miss the answers to these pressing questions, as they will shed light on a narcissist's behavior and why they can never truly escape their past. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe, like, and share this video with anyone you think could benefit from understanding the complex psyche of a narcissist. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. Now let's dive into the fascinating world of narcissism and understand why the past always haunts the narcissist. Narcissists are experts in denial and avoidance, skillfully creating and maintaining an image of themselves as perfect, superior beings. They constantly work to convince not only others, but also themselves that they are above and beyond those around them. Their public persona is one of confidence, strength, and infallibility, and they go to great lengths to project this image to the world. However, beneath this polished exterior lies a deep well of insecurity. This insecurity is rooted in a fundamental fear that the world will eventually see through their carefully constructed facade, exposing them for who they truly are. The narcissist fears that others will discover the truth about their vulnerabilities, their flaws, and their incapacity to live up to the perfect image they project. This fear is a constant companion, lurking beneath their bravado and influencing much of their behavior. It is not just a fear of being exposed. It is a fear of being judged and rejected for their perceived inadequacies. This deep fear stems from their past, a past that many narcissists try to suppress or even rewrite in their minds in order to maintain control over their narrative. The past, for the narcissist, is a constant reminder of their shortcomings, their failures, and the moments when they were vulnerable and exposed. These are the moments that they desperately try to bury, convinced that by ignoring them, they can avoid confronting their own flaws. Every failed relationship, every mistake, every instance where their true self was exposed, is stored in the recesses of their mind as a source of shame. Instead of taking responsibility for these moments and addressing the damage they've caused, the narcissist tries to repress them, convincing themselves that the past no longer matters. However, no matter how hard they try to bury it, the past never truly disappears. It lingers in the background, like a shadow, waiting for the right moment to resurface. Even though they may attempt to ignore it, the unresolved issues from their past are always present, ready to remind them of their vulnerabilities and shortcomings whenever they let their guard down. One of the reasons the past continues to haunt the narcissist is because they never fully face or deal with the consequences of their actions. Time and again, they may hurt others, lie, manipulate, and take advantage of people, but rarely do they take responsibility for their behavior. Instead, they engage in a pattern of deflection, gaslighting, and rewriting the narrative to make themselves appear as the victim or the one wronged. This constant shifting of blame serves as a way to avoid confronting the truth about their own actions. They twist reality to make it seem like they are always in the right, never acknowledging the pain they have caused others. This refusal to take responsibility prevents them from processing their own emotions and understanding the impact of their actions. As a result, they carry an emotional void within them, a void that never gets filled. While they may convince themselves that they've moved on from their past mistakes, deep down they know that they are still burdened by the weight of unresolved issues. They may act as though they are unaffected, but the truth is that the guilt, shame, and emotional baggage from their past continue to haunt them, even if they refuse to confront it. Furthermore, narcissists are driven by a desperate need for validation from others. This need for constant admiration and praise is not merely about ego. It is a reflection of their profound internal emptiness and lack of self-worth. They seek approval from those around them in an effort to fill the deep void that exists inside them. The external validation they crave becomes a temporary fix, a brief distraction from the feelings of inadequacy and self-doubt that they constantly battle. No matter how many people they impress or manipulate, the validation they receive is never enough to truly satisfy their internal emptiness. It is a never-ending cycle of seeking praise, but never finding fulfillment. This pursuit of admiration is a way for narcissists to avoid dealing with the ghosts of their past. By surrounding themselves with superficial praise, they attempt to drown out the lingering feelings of guilt and shame. The more they seek validation, the more they attempt to outrun the unresolved issues from their past. Unfortunately, this external attention can never truly heal the internal wounds they carry. The narcissist remains trapped in a cycle of empty validation, never able to fully escape the emotional void within them. The more narcissists attempt to outrun their past, the more it clings to them, refusing to let go. They often find themselves trapped in a relentless cycle of self-destructive behavior, unable to break free from the patterns that define their lives. This cycle is not random. It is a manifestation of their inability to confront and resolve their inner turmoil. They may try to escape by changing their surroundings, whether it's moving to a new city, finding a different partner, or starting a new job, believing that a fresh environment will provide a clean slate. However, what they fail to understand is that the problems they face are not external. They are internal. Wherever they go, their unresolved issues follow, silently shaping their actions and decisions. No matter how far they run, the past remains a shadow, lurking in the background, waiting for the right moment to resurface and remind them of the truths they desperately try to bury. This inability to escape stems from their refusal to address the emotional baggage they carry. Each new beginning is an illusion, a temporary distraction from the unresolved pain and guilt that they suppress. They may convince themselves that these fresh starts are a way to leave their mistakes behind, but the reality is that they are simply avoiding the inevitable. The past doesn't disappear just because they change their circumstances. It festers, growing more potent with every effort to ignore it. Eventually, it catches up with them, often in ways they least expect, forcing them to confront the consequences of their actions in moments of weakness or crisis. The cycle becomes an exhausting repetition of attempts to start anew, only to find themselves in the same situations, facing the same challenges, and making the same mistakes. At the heart of their struggle is a profound fear of vulnerability, a fear so deeply ingrained that it governs much of their behavior. Confronting their past would require narcissists to take responsibility for their actions, to acknowledge their mistakes, and to show genuine remorse. This process demands emotional openness, something they perceive as a dangerous weakness. To be vulnerable, in their eyes, is to risk losing the carefully constructed facade of superiority they have worked so hard to maintain. Vulnerability threatens to expose the cracks in their armor, revealing the insecurities and flaws they are so desperate to hide. Rather than face this terrifying prospect, they retreat into denial, choosing the safety of their illusions over the discomfort of facing reality. To protect themselves from this perceived threat, narcissists construct elaborate false narratives about their lives and actions. These narratives serve as a shield, allowing them to rewrite history in a way that absolves them of blame. They convince themselves that they are always in the right, that their actions were justified, and that those they've hurt are the ones truly at fault. This self-delusion is not just a defense mechanism, it becomes a way of life. They twist reality to fit their needs, creating a version of events that keeps them insulated from guilt and shame. This distorted worldview allows them to maintain their sense of superiority while avoiding the emotional pain that comes with admitting their flaws. They tell themselves they are entitled to act as they do, that the rules don't apply to them, and that the consequences of their actions are someone else's responsibility. This pattern of self-deception, however, comes at a cost. By refusing to confront their past, narcissists remain trapped in a cycle of denial and avoidance. Their false narratives may offer temporary relief, but they also keep them stuck, unable to grow or change. Every new lie they tell themselves, every instance of deflected blame, adds another layer to the wall that separates them from their true selves. They may believe they are protecting their identity, but in reality, they are imprisoning themselves in a life of constant denial and superficiality. The more they cling to their false narratives, the further they drift from the truth, and the harder it becomes to break free from the cycle they've created. For narcissists, the past is more than a series of events. It is a mirror reflecting their deepest fears and insecurities. Every mistake they've made, every person they've hurt, and every opportunity they've squandered serves as a painful reminder of their humanity, a reality they work tirelessly to deny. Their failures expose the lie of their perfection, forcing them to confront the fact that they are not invincible, not superior, and not immune to the consequences of their actions. This realization is one they cannot bear, as it threatens the foundation of their identity. The past becomes a relentless force, one that haunts them precisely because it challenges the image they have built of themselves. It is not just the events of their history that haunt them, but the truths those events reveal about who they really are. This haunting is a source of constant inner conflict. While they work to suppress their past, they cannot entirely escape the weight of their unresolved emotions. The guilt, shame, and fear linger, often manifesting in subtle ways, through their relationships, their choices, and their behaviors. These unresolved feelings create a restless energy within them, driving their need for control, validation, and superiority. They may appear confident and self-assured on the surface, but beneath it all, they are in a constant battle with their own unresolved pain. The past, no matter how deeply they try to bury it, refuses to be forgotten. It demands acknowledgement, forcing them to confront their flaws and vulnerabilities. And for someone who has built their entire identity on the illusion of perfection and superiority, this is a terrifying and insurmountable challenge. Thank you for joining me today in exploring the complex relationship between narcissists and their past. As we've uncovered, the narcissist's inability to escape the haunting weight of their past is deeply tied to their emotional struggles and self-image. No matter how much they try to deny it, repress it, or rewrite it, their past will always be there, waiting to resurface when they least expect it. If you found this video insightful, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this with anyone who might benefit from understanding narcissistic behavior. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. How has the past impacted the narcissists in your life? And remember, while narcissists may never fully face their past, you have the power to let go of theirs and move forward with peace. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.
The painful suffering of narcissists when they fail to control you. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm so happy to have you here today. Whether you're returning or new to the channel, I really appreciate you tuning in for what I believe is going to be a very eye-opening discussion. Today, we're going to dive deep into a topic that can be quite empowering, yet also a bit unsettling. We'll be talking about what happens to narcissists when they fail to control you, the suffering they experience, the emotional turmoil they go through, and why it's so painful for them when their manipulation tactics no longer work. This is a reality that many people don't often think about, but it's essential to understand, especially if you're trying to break free from the toxic grip of a narcissist. Let's get into it. So, here's the thing about narcissists: they live and breathe control. Control is their lifeline. It's not just about managing situations or having influence over others, it's about the deep, underlying need to maintain their fragile sense of superiority and self-worth. Narcissists construct an entire identity based on being in control of people, of environments, of outcomes. And when that control starts to slip through their fingers, it causes them immense psychological pain. This is where we start to see the cracks in their carefully crafted armor. When a narcissist can no longer control you, it's like their worst nightmare coming true. They've spent so much time manipulating and orchestrating everything to their advantage. And suddenly, you're no longer playing along. You've woken up to their game, and you're no longer willing to be the pawn they use to inflate their ego. For a narcissist, this is devastating. They thrive on your emotional responses, on your submission to their control, and on your willingness to doubt yourself just to accommodate their ever-changing demands. When all of that vanishes, they're left in a state of panic and confusion. Why is this such a painful experience for narcissists? Well, it's because control isn't just a tool for them, it's tied to their very identity. Narcissists have an insatiable need for admiration, validation, and recognition. They've built their entire self-image around the idea that they are superior, more capable, and more deserving than anyone else. But this inflated sense of self is incredibly fragile. Beneath the surface lies a deep well of insecurity, fear, and self-doubt. The control they exert over others is what keeps those insecurities at bay. It's a way for them to avoid confronting their own weaknesses and flaws. So when you stop responding to their manipulations, when you refuse to let them control you anymore, you're essentially stripping away the foundation of their self-worth. Without control, they can no longer maintain the illusion that they are superior or invincible. And that is where the real suffering begins for them. At first, a narcissist might try to deny what's happening. They'll likely escalate their tactics, trying even harder to manipulate, charm, or intimidate you into submission. They'll throw everything they've got at you: love bombing, gaslighting, guilt-tripping, and even outright aggression. This is their way of desperately trying to regain the control they're losing. But if you stay firm, if you don't cave to their tactics, they'll eventually realize that their usual methods no longer work. And this realization hits them hard. Once a narcissist understands that they can no longer control you, they enter a state of psychological turmoil. One of the reasons for this is that narcissists don't have a healthy way of processing failure or rejection. For most people, when things don't go their way, they might feel disappointed, but they can usually cope, reflect, and move on. Narcissists, however, don't have that emotional resilience. They can't handle being rejected or losing control because it threatens the very core of their identity. It triggers their deepest fears, that they're not as special, powerful, or perfect as they believe themselves to be. The psychological pain that narcissists feel when they lose control is intense. It's not just about the loss of power over you, it's about the collapse of their self-image. Narcissists rely on external validation to prop up their sense of self-worth, and controlling others is a big part of how they get that validation. When they lose control, they're forced to confront the reality that they're not in charge, that they're not as important or influential as they thought. This causes a deep sense of shame, humiliation, and fear, emotions that narcissists are ill-equipped to handle. And let me tell you, narcissists hate feeling vulnerable. Vulnerability, to them, is a sign of weakness, and they go to great lengths to avoid it. But losing control forces them into a vulnerable state. They're no longer able to hide behind their manipulations, and the mask they wear starts to slip. They may lash out in anger, trying to regain some semblance of power, but underneath that rage is a profound sense of helplessness. They're suffering because they've lost the thing they need most, control. Another aspect of their suffering comes from the fact that narcissists view their relationships as transactional. In their minds, people exist to serve their needs, to boost their ego, and to provide them with constant admiration and validation. When you break free from their control, you disrupt that transaction. You're no longer playing the role they've assigned to you, and this leaves them feeling abandoned and rejected. Narcissists take this personally, even though it's not about them at all. It's about you reclaiming your own power and autonomy. But to a narcissist, it feels like a direct attack on their self-worth. At this point, some narcissists may spiral into a form of self-pity. They'll start to play the victim, trying to manipulate others into feeling sorry for them. They'll paint you as the villain, claiming that you've wronged them, abandoned them, or hurt them in some way. This is another desperate attempt to regain control, this time by controlling the narrative and how others perceive them. But underneath that facade of victimhood, they're suffering deeply. They're in pain because they can't understand why their usual tactics aren't working anymore. It shakes their entire worldview. And here's the truth that's difficult for many people to accept: narcissists do suffer. They may seem cold, calculating, and emotionless, but the reality is that they are incredibly sensitive to rejection and failure. The difference is that they don't know how to process those emotions in a healthy way. Instead of reflecting on their behavior or acknowledging their flaws, they double down on their manipulations, hoping that if they just push harder, they can regain control. But the more they fail, the more they suffer. It's a vicious cycle. Now, this doesn't mean you should feel sorry for them or try to fix them. Narcissists are masters at drawing people into their pain and making them feel responsible for it. They want you to feel guilty for standing up to them, for asserting your boundaries, or for breaking free from their control. But it's important to remember that their suffering is the result of their own toxic behavior. It's not your responsibility to save them from the consequences of their actions. What you need to do is protect yourself. Recognize that a narcissist's suffering, while real, is not your burden to carry. They will try to make you feel responsible. They will try to guilt you into coming back under their control, but you must stay firm. Their pain is the result of their inability to control you. And while it's uncomfortable for them, it's a necessary part of breaking free from their toxic influence. In the end, the painful suffering that narcissists experience when they fail to control you is a reflection of their own inner turmoil. They can't handle the loss of control because it forces them to confront the reality of who they are, a reality they've been running from for most of their lives. But this is not your problem to fix. Your focus should be on maintaining your boundaries, protecting your mental and emotional health, and continuing to live your life free from their manipulation. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope this discussion has shed some light on the emotional pain that narcissists experience when they can no longer control you. Remember, breaking free from a narcissist's control is an incredibly empowering step, and while they may suffer as a result, It's not your job to fix them. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I appreciate all your support, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Take care and stay strong.